Hello guys, welcome back. I can't believe it, but it has been 2 years now since my jaw surgery, or it will have been 2 years by the time this video comes out. Right now, I'm about 2 weeks away from that 2-year mark. So it has also been just over a year since I got my braces off, and just about 6 months since I had my final surgery to remove all the rest of the metal plates. So on this 2-year anniversary from my jaw surgery, I wanted to give you guys a bit of an update about where things stand now and talk a little bit about where I see these videos going from here. Because now that I am 2 years out from having the surgery, obviously there's just fewer things to update really around the actual jaw surgery and recovery process at this point. But that being said, I do have a few things that are still in the works, and I also thought it would be interesting to continue doing updates over time and sort of see more of the long-term trajectory of this jaw surgery recovery process and how things play out, further down the road than just 1 year out or even 2 years out. So let's talk a little bit about where things stand now, what is coming up, and where I see these videos going from here. Like I said, there's not too much to update on in terms of actual jaw surgery recovery at this point. Yes, because I did have those plates removed about 6 months ago, that healing process might still be ongoing, but I do feel like everything is pretty well healed at this point from that. And really in terms of like the actual outcome of my jaw surgery, I don't think anything is going to change that much from here. The only thing I could see that might continue to improve over time is some areas of numbness that I still am experiencing. So for me, that's really like the roof of my mouth and kind of my upper teeth, like the back side of my upper teeth. I have feeling there, like it's not completely numb, but it's also not completely normal or what I would consider normal yet. And I suppose that could continue just really slowly over time to come back. It might not be something that I notice overnight, but I'll keep an eye on that and see if things improve. But I think it's also possible that this just is how it's going to be for me. I know that during these jaw surgeries, there's obviously a lot of disruption of nerves and stuff like that. And either it can take a really long time for all of that to come back, or people might just end up with some areas of numbness. And for me, maybe this is it. But that is one thing that I will continue tracking into the future. On the other hand, in terms of my actual teeth and bite and orthodontic situation, this is where things could continue to change, and I may do further treatment as I go forward. I had an appointment with my orthodontist last spring, and at that point, she wanted me to come back around this time in the fall to check back in with her and kind of give everything a little bit more time to fully heal. I think at that point, I had not yet had all of the metal plates removed, and I still didn't have the permanent crown put on my front tooth, which was an implant tooth. So things were still like a little bit in flux at that point and not totally done or settled. So she wanted me to come back, I think at that point it was like 9 months later, and check in now to see if there's anything else we want to do, if anything has felt like it has shifted or is uncomfortable for me, and then we can make a plan for going forward. So I saw my orthodontist again earlier this week, and we touched base on a couple of things. One, we had talked previously about potentially doing some expansion orthodontically and reopening the premolar extraction sites. So I had my premolars extracted when I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was when I had that happen, but that was definitely part of the reason why I ended up having this jaw surgery, was having those teeth pulled, and then that kind of created the more retracted jaw. And so we had previously talked a little bit about whether we might do that in terms of like just opening up a little bit more space. Both that would give my tongue a little bit more space, because I've always had a very small palate and not a lot of room for my tongue. So it would give my tongue a little bit more space in my mouth, and also just create a little bit more width and potentially a little more comfortable bite for me. About that again, and a couple of different options for how we might go about that. And the other thing that we were checking in on was my left side occlusion, because right after I got my braces off, or shortly after I got my braces off, I think I talked about this in a video back then, but I lost contact on my left side between my molars. And I did have at least one tooth that I had really worn down with my previous bite. And so that was kind of always going to have been an issue, but to completely lose contact on that side was kind of strange, especially so quickly after I got the braces off. So we've always been a little bit confused as to why that happened. And then when I was in Germany and was getting this permanent crown put on my implant tooth, they do a lot of aesthetic work at that dentist that I was seeing there, and they just put some material on those molars, on the molars that I had kind of worn down or that were not occluding correctly on this left side, to create some contact and stability on that side of my bite. This was not necessarily meant to be like a final solution, but a pretty good short to long-term solution. It could also easily be reversed or adjusted because it's just some composite material that is on those teeth, so it can be like shaved down or taken off if needed. So it was good, at least for the time being, to give me some stability, and it makes it more comfortable to chew and just gives me a more comfortable resting position on that side. But we still wanted to kind of make sure there wasn't anything deeper, like any issues going on in my jaw or anything like that that could have been causing that side to lose contact in the first place. And also, again, to kind of go like, what might we do with this in the future to create a better long-term solution? So during this appointment with my orthodontist, we redid some photos, and we also did an updated CT scan. This was actually pretty interesting to me because I had only seen the last ones that I had, or when I had all the plates in, and I think some of them maybe even when I had my braces on. So there was like a ton of metal in there. And it was really interesting to see now new scans where all that metal is gone, and just kind of is easier to sort of focus on what was actually going on with the bone structure and the teeth and everything like that. The good news is we didn't find anything that stood out on there as being like, oh, this is a problem or something that we need to keep an eye on in terms of like jaw shifting or joint issues or anything like that. We did notice in the photos, so we have been doing updated photos throughout this whole process and getting updated photos again earlier this week. We were able to look from the time I got my braces off until now, what were the different changes and what did we notice? And it was kind of surprising to see like a few different shifts, like specifically on that left side and just kind of in how my bite was sitting. So because we had seen some changes, and there was nothing super drastic, or again, it wasn't really like concerning, but I think because of having a major surgery and having a lot of orthodontics done, there is going to be some settling or potentially some shifting that happens after the braces come off. So what she wants me to do at this point is to wait a couple more months, come back in the spring, redo the photos again so we can compare again and see if anything continues to change. And at that point, we'll have a better idea of, are things still moving? Are shifts still happening that we need to be worried about? Or if everything is settling, do we want to do any further treatment to just sort of make my bite feel a little bit better, to maybe correct this left side in a more permanent solution than the composite material? Or are there any other changes that we might want to do long-term in the future? All that being said, I'm not making any decisions, or we're not making any decisions on this right now. So what she wanted me to do was to really decide for myself, what would my ultimate goal be, or what would my purpose be if we did do further treatment? Like, what would I want to get out of it? What would my ideal outcome be? And then when we revisit in the spring, update the photos, we can decide if I have a specific goal in mind for what I want out of it, whether that's comfort of my bite or an aesthetic component or anything else, then we can decide what the best or most like efficient or effective course of action will be. Going forward, I do plan to keep doing updates on what is going on with the orthodontics or anything related to my jaw surgery, healing, recovery, all of that. And I do think it could be interesting to see long-term trajectory of how this healing process goes beyond just the first year or two. But I'm also planning to continue documenting my bigger health journey and this journey that really brought me to jaw surgery in the first place. So I have talked in previous videos about how I've had chronic fatigue and hormone issues and sort of chronic pain, just like some long-term health issues that have been very hard to resolve despite a lot of work with a lot of different people over the years. And ultimately, part of that journey was doing this jaw surgery. Not necessarily because I thought jaw surgery was going to magically erase my symptoms or make everything totally better, but just that when I became more aware of how my bite was problematic and how my airway was impacted by my bite and my jaw structure, and just knowing how interconnected the whole body is, I wanted to pursue this jaw surgery in the hopes or knowing that it was going to have an impact on my overall health in the long run. And having this jaw surgery, I do think has had an impact. So I know it's given me a much bigger airway. I have noticed improvements in my sleep, which I have also talked about in previous videos. And I've had improvements in head and neck pain that I have experienced for a really long time. I do think that the structural piece and the airway improvement does help my body function at a better level, or just, function better overall. But at the same time, I still am dealing with daily symptoms of really strong fatigue and a lot of joint pain, and I still have a lot of hormonal issues that are unresolved. And now that I am really well healed from this jaw surgery and from the plate removal and everything else, I am refocusing on this bigger picture health journey and really trying to get to the bottom of this chronic fatigue and make more progress on my day-to-day symptoms. Going forward, my videos will be documenting what I am doing to heal, different protocols I'm trying, treatments, what I'm experimenting with and exploring, at least to better manage, but hopefully also to really heal from these chronic health issues. As I said, I've been working with many different practitioners, naturopath, functional medicine experts, Western medicine experts, and different specialists for a really long time. I've made some progress, but still feel really stuck. And I recently started working with a functional geneticist. I did some DNA testing and started working with this practitioner to do a deep dive into my genetics and how that could be playing into what I'm experiencing now. So taking into account my whole life history along with my actual DNA and what that can mean for why certain parts of my body are not functioning well or why I might be experiencing these symptoms. And as part of the process of looking into my DNA and genetics, we are also gathering additional data through some blood work, through some other testing, like testing for mold exposure, trying some elimination diets. I also have a prescription for a continuous glucose monitor that I will be playing around with because I've had some sort of strange blood glucose test levels in the past. And we'll basically just be experimenting with a lot of different treatments and protocols based off of my DNA to see if we can find some things that my body actually responds to. So my next couple of videos will be covering some of these things, like these additional lab tests that I'm doing, the continuous glucose monitor, I'm trying an elimination diet, as well as just some other data gathering, experimentation with supplements, etc. And as I said, I will continue to update on all things orthodontic and any jaw surgery or recovery things that come up. So if you have any other questions or comments about that piece of it, I'm always happy to answer questions about my process through jaw surgery here. You can leave comments below. I feel like this health journey, it ultimately brought me to jaw surgery, but the overall journey is far from over. And I really appreciate all of the support. I hope you guys will continue with me wherever this takes me next. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.